What if I told you that the person smiling at you right now might be more dangerous than your worst enemy? Not because they hate you, not because they want to hurt you, but because they don't think at all. We fear anger, we fear conflict, but we rarely fear obedience. And that's exactly how the most dangerous people hide, in plain sight. We live in a culture that worships niceness. From childhood we're taught, be polite, be agreeable, don't rock the boat. Nice people are rewarded, promoted, trusted. But history and psychology tell a darker story, that those who simply go along can be the most dangerous of all. Not because they intend harm, but because they allow it. Today we're going to explore a hidden psychological truth, one that's often left out of mainstream conversations. Why nice people can become passive participants in cruelty, and how this trait, so often praised, can quietly erode the moral structure of a society. We'll look at insights from psychology, philosophy, and even mysticism. By the end, you'll see niceness not as harmless, but as potentially deadly. Niceness is not the same as kindness, and it's certainly not goodness. Kindness requires courage. It demands action, especially when it's uncomfortable. But niceness avoids conflict. Niceness obeys. Niceness conforms, even when it shouldn't. Many so-called nice people never question authority, never resist social pressure, and never speak up, even when they know something is wrong. Why? Because their primary goal is to be liked, to be accepted, to avoid trouble. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. The world's worst atrocities were not carried out by monsters. They were carried out by ordinary people, following orders, staying quiet, being nice. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted a now infamous experiment. He asked participants to deliver electric shocks to a person in another room. The shocks weren't real, but the participants didn't know that. A man in a lab coat told them to continue, and they did. Over 65% of them went all the way, believing they were causing real pain. Why? Because an authority figure told them to. Because they didn't want to challenge the system. Because they were just doing their job. Milgram later said, "Ordinary people simply doing their jobs can become agents in a terrible process." These people weren't sadists. They weren't evil. They were normal. They were nice. This is the terrifying part. You don't need a room full of villains to destroy a society. You just need a room full of nice people who don't ask questions. Look around you. Algorithms decide what we see. Mobs decide what's acceptable. And institutions demand quiet compliance. In this environment, the nice person thrives. They nod. They smile. They repost. But they never question. They avoid confrontation. They avoid depth. They avoid truth. And in doing so, they become vessels, empty mirrors for whatever power fills them. Philosopher Hannah Arendt called this the banality of evil. The idea that the greatest evils in history didn't come from monsters, but from unthinking, obedient men and women who simply went along. The nice person is not a threat to power. They are power's most useful tool. Have you ever trusted someone simply because they seemed nice, only to realize later they were just empty? Tell your story in the comments. Let's talk about it, because silence is the real danger. And if this message resonates, share this video. Someone you know might need this warning. In a time where truth feels dangerous and conformity is rewarded. Being nice isn't enough. We need people who think, who feel, who act, even when it's uncomfortable. Because a kind person may challenge you, but a nice person will watch you burn and say nothing. Remember, evil doesn't always arrive with rage. Sometimes it smiles. So don't be nice, be real, be conscious, be awake, subscribe for more hidden psychology and philosophy, and above all, stay human.